Steeler Fury. SteelPerch.com.
What's happening? Welcome to another exciting edition of the Pittsburgh Steelers Show on your SteelPerch.com podcast. I'm your host, Bradshaw DeBen, also known as Wil Masisak. You might know me as Accidental Zen on Twitter. It's a Thursday night. We're talking Steelers football with the usual gang of suspects. We got a full house tonight. First of all, from somewhere in they call it the greater Indianapolis area, but if you've ever been to Indianapolis, I mean, greater, really. His name is Jeremy Kohlman. He's also the host of the Extra Point on AM 8:30, on at 10:30 in the morning every Sunday, talking NFL football. Jeremy's with us. How are you, sir?
Doing good.
And also from Pittsburgh Suburban Zone 22, where he demanded to be paid twice. Tonight he was going to hold out from the show if he didn't get paid twice his normal fee, which I had to agree to somehow. It's Strike-tober, Strike November, or whatever. Anyway, his name is SteelPerch. He's with us. How are you, sir?
Well, does everybody have a sister nearby?
Does everybody have a sister? It's still working in the brain.
Oh, come on now. What was the score of the Steelers game this last week?
Oh, somebody to kiss. Yeah, exactly. And
there
with
you
us,
go. There you go.
And with us from the frighteningly from Noah's Ark, which is parked in South Carolina right now. His name is Dom. He goes by FC. He's with us. How are you, sir?
I'm here so they don't find me. I'm great. How are you, sir?
Are you going to tell us what you're having for dinner tonight from Uber Eats or whatever?
Yeah.
Like Marshawn Lynch.
None of your business, Tommy.
I wish I could think of something clever to say about is this the first time? I'm trying to think. Is this the first time the Steelers have had a tie since we've been doing the show? I think it is. So this is an unusual experience. It's our first time doing a show after a tie. What do you say about that? I mean, I guess I'll say, are you looking at it like it could have been worse? Or are you looking at it like, oh my God, we tied the Detroit Lions? I'll start with you, Jeremy. You haven't been with us for a while. I'll give you the first word.
Well, I mean, I guess we didn't lose to the Detroit Lions. We didn't give them their first win of the season. I mean, they have a pretty brutal stretch. So I feel like, this past Sunday might have been their best chance to actually get a W. So at least we didn't lose to the Detroit Lions. It's still kind of pathetic that we tied the Detroit Lions, but it is what it is.
And Perch, I'm going to ask you this. Do you think, what's that site you were just talking about where you buy players and buy and sell players for their NFL futures?
This segment is brought to you by Prediction Strike.
Okay.
Download it on the App Store today.
So I'm sure during Sunday, like when was it during Sunday's game when you rushed to purchase shares of Mason Rudolph?
I was actually trying to learn how to spell Godwin Igwe Dubikwe, and that took up most of my afternoon.
He played at your school. How could you not already know? He's a Penn State kid.
I guess I'm a bad speller. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a real challenge. That's one of those ones where, when there's a prospect in the draft who's really, really good that has a crazy name, I try to learn it because I think I'm going to have to type it about 25 times on Twitter or on the website. So I try to learn them. But yeah, that's one that I was like, no way, I'm not attempting that one. Dom, try to explain this game to us. When we talked, we thought we were going to have Ben Roethlisberger. We didn't have him. Even without Bennett, it just felt like they were just like inches away from figuring out a way to right the ship and win this game, and they just managed to sabotage themselves at every turn. How did you see this?
Well, it was a clusterfuck.
Yeah.
I mean,
and that's the show for tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Thanks for being with us.
They made mental mistakes. I mean, people are throwing Deontay Johnson at Pyramid $100. So be it. I can understand. They try to make plays, they fumble. It's horrible. I hate fumbles. Bad. But I'm pretty much I was a proponent of Miles Kilbert. It's a donkey penalty. Keith Butler, I mean, come on, Jared Goff showed you midway through the second quarter he had about 12 to 15 yards of arm strength, but you're still playing two safety, 17 yards off the ball. And just eating the run, eat the run. And it was not like the Steelers had the ability to get wins when offensive guards can cover onto our inside linebackers. That's just a big man on a small man. And that's just not going to work at the point of attack in the running a lot. And so there was plenty of blame to go around, players, coaches. I believe Mason Rudolph played good enough to win the game against the Detroit Lions. I think the team let him down.
I don't know about that. I mean, I feel like it's he did enough to lose the game against Detroit. In other words,
Jake Johnson does not fumble that ball. Do you think that we have a pretty good chance of taking the field goal?
I do. But I guess what I'd say is there's a theme here. I think about the three most recent overtime fumbles that I can remember. It's the two in this game. Pat Freiermuth trying to make it on the last play, gets out of bounds or gets something. Deontay Johnson doing it, and then Juju Smith-Schuster 2019. And in all three of those games, all three of those fumbles came with Mason Rudolph and the offense struggling and players feeling like they got to do something extra in order to win the game. It's just, I think it's their sense of confidence in being able to move down the field with that guy that contributed to the mistakes. Yes, they're the ones that made the mistakes, and yes, they let him down. And in theory, he almost did enough. He almost got them into field goal range. Not quite. So it's not like he drove down to the 20 and they fumbled. It's like they were just on the fringes of like a 60-yard field goal, and then players made mistakes. So from that standpoint, I don't know. I feel like he did enough to further cement my take on him that he's just not really. If you can't even play not at your best, if you can't play not at your best and still not have enough, if you're not playing your worst football and you still can't beat the Detroit Lions with, a reasonable assemblage of team around you, that's pretty bad. That's my point. Sorry for the long-winded answer.
I wouldn't even say, you really wouldn't say even had, he was missing his top two wide receivers, two out of the top three. Disagree, sir.
Yeah, I understand.
Let me ask you a question here. On what planet is scoring 16 points in 5 full quarters against the worst team and the worst defense in the league and allowing 230 rushing yards not playing your worst football? To me, I don't think they could play much worse than that, aside of getting blown out by somebody. But it's the 0-8 Lions, and the Lions did everything. The Lions didn't even try to throw the ball most of the game. How many times did they throw the receiver all game? 10, 12 passes to even attempted to a receiver the entire game. It was all runs and short dump offs to tight ends and backs. And
yep.
It was a one-dimensional offense. They were using 6 offensive linemen, 2 tight ends, and just running the ball down our throat. For a team that's got no threats, you got to be able to stop the run. It just, Mason Rudolph, we had a chance to go up 14-0, driving 7-0, and misses a wide open receiver by 5 yards and throws a pick. And there was a lot of mistakes in that game that it was not good football.
No, not fun to watch. Jeremy, we're going to go and talk about the defense in a second, but offensively, it felt like they were at least as consistently moving the ball, running the football. Najee Harris averaged 5 yards a carry in this game. But yet the Steelers threw 50 times with Mason Rudolph. What do you do? Is it just like you don't want to run the wheels off Najee and there's nobody else to run it, so you can't run it even though running it is more successful than passing it? They literally had more yards per attempt rushing the football than they did passing it.
Yeah, I think it's kind of puzzling, because, Mike Tomlin in the past has, used the phrase, we're going to run the wheels off you with guys like Willie Parker, Le'Veon Bell. It's like they have used a one-back system for a long time. So it was kind of puzzling. Najee Harris is a guy that's built to carry the ball like 30, 40 times a game. He did that for like 2 years at Alabama and was pretty dang good at it. So I don't know why we had Mason Rudolph throwing the ball 50 times a game. You know, I would have been running Najee most of the game. And then it just seemed like, you know, we always had bad, you know, shakes when we got in range. You know, we've already mentioned the 2 fumbles, but I mean, you know, Harris had an 8-yard touchdown called back because of a Dan Moore holding penalty. You know, I think it was in the second quarter when that happened. Yeah, I don't disagree that it was a bad call. But, you know, I would have kept running the ball. You know, that was the recipe to win against the Lions. And I don't know. Sometimes it's like when we start to do one thing really well, we think we can't do it anymore.
So I guess, FC, I'll come back around to you. What's the biggest concern coming out of this week? I mean, is it will Ben start against the Chargers and try to get back, you know, some of that flow offensively that we missed? Is it the stopping the run? Is it the game planning? Is it the choices that they're making with how they're configuring the defense against certain teams, or the play calling with the, you know, offensive coordinator, offensive line? Try to pinpoint for us what is the stuff that we really should be worried about, as opposed to things that, you know, they didn't have a good week, but they're going to be all right.
Health. Ben, Watt, Mika, do it eventually. I mean, we keep on saying, but, you know, he's a major cog for this defense. Even the guys that continue to just ramble on, you can tell that Hayward is struggling, but he's still playing balls out. Same thing could even be said about Isaiah Buggs. You also got Dotson that's out week to week with a high ankle sprain. So I'd say health is the major concern for this team.
I mean, Perch, what do you think of the issues with the run defense has had, particularly against Seattle and Detroit? They weren't that bad against the other teams, even, you know, especially Cleveland, which has a really good run game generally. So how do you explain the problems that they had in the 2 games where they just seemed to have a terrible time stopping the run?
Personnel and adjustments. I had the mispleasure of listening to the Steelers' offensive and defensive coordinators' interviews today, driving through Pittsburgh. And, you know, when Canada's out there and they ask him, why didn't you run more? Or why don't you use your big packages and your fullback? And he says, well, we have 11 and they have 11. If we put our big package in, they match it and then they stop our run. Well, then they kind of ask, you know, Keith Butler the same question in reverse later. And he didn't quite have the same answer. I mean, if you look at when we've been getting our brains beat against the run, it's just a personnel and package and adjustment thing. I mean, teams are throwing out 6 offensive linemen, 2 tight ends, a big package. We've got 3 down linemen and 4 linebackers. And, you know, and there's been times this year where we've been in nickel and they just come out and, you know, maybe it's 5 down linemen and 2 tight ends and a big package, and they bludgeon us. And we see our 2-5 techniques getting double teamed and pushed off the ball. And guys have a huge cutback lane, and, you know, we know the issues with our inside linebackers, that they're not the greatest tacklers and the sturdiest guys in the world. It's not like we've got Levon Kirkland and some thumpers in the middle of the defense anymore. It's pass coverage guys, and they're over pursuing and missing angles. And the next thing you know, our safeties are diving and making ankle tackles 15 yards downfield. I don't understand why it took so long. I mean, they shut the package down in the 4th quarter, but why did it take 3 quarters to make the adjustments? You know, part of it is you're down 2/3 of your defensive line, and Cam Hayward's aging and still playing out of his mind. But, you know, how much can he really do by himself? And the inside linebackers are an issue. There's got to be some sort of a schematic difference, whether it's 4 down linemen or bigger packages. When you've got to kind of match what the offense is doing, and we're not doing all. It's been going on for a couple of years now, where the Steelers will maybe be in nickel, and the other team has two tights and just push us around and run right up the gut. So I think it's more of an adjustment schematic thing that the coordinator's got to make.
I mean, Jeremy, they might get Carlos Davis back this week. He started practicing. He's officially still on IR, but eligible to play. And, you know, it's just, I guess my question is, what does it take for them? What will it take for them to consider switching personnel? Because inside linebacker wise, they have a couple of guys in, particularly in Gilbert and Buddy Johnson, and even in what's the other linebacker? 41.
Spillane.
Yeah, Spillane. That so those guys, aren't really seeing the field very much. Spillane for a while there was playing all the time, and then suddenly wasn't playing at all. He was playing a lot when they were in dime, and now that they faced a team where they were getting killed playing the run, he wasn't playing. It was just okay, what will it take for the Steelers to begin saying, okay, well, all these personnel packages we came up with in the beginning of the year and the guys that we decided were the starters, we have to change something. Are we at that point?
I mean, I just don't know what it's going to take for them to do it, because you would think after pounding your head so many times against a wall, you'd be willing to change, because we keep seeing the same result. Teams are running all over that nickel and dime package. Why we don't, play with 4 down defensive linemen at it sometimes is, just it's head scratching. And I think we're all at the point where we just don't understand why things are done the way they are in Pittsburgh. It's like they're, I don't know, I'm trying to find the word for it. Stubborn, I believe, is the biggest one. I think that's the biggest thing. They are convinced that that they're going to do what they do no matter what and try to win a football game. And it's just man, the NFL is all about, adjustments. I mean, the best coaches go in at halftime, make the adjustments and come out and shut something down, that the opponent was doing really well. The run defense got a little bit better in the second half, but not a whole lot.
By the way, I don't know if you guys can hear this. Just since we started the show, I'm having a thunderstorm that sounds like the finale on the 4th of July. I mean, it's just either that or we're being bombed right now, and nobody's heard. So as long as there hasn't been a special report coming on your television, I think it's the thunderstorm. So I apologize if that's making it through. Dom, I know you're familiar with thunder showers in your part of the world. What? I don't know. What do they do? Because here's the thing: despite tying Detroit,
I have the answer for this question.
Oh, okay. I was just going to say, let me finish just quickly. Despite tying Detroit and all the problems that they've had this year and missing Ben Roethlisberger last week, blah, 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 they have the 3rd best record in the AFC. They're the 5 seed right now. So they're in it enough that they can't just bail, but they don't really have the answers necessarily. So what do they do? Go ahead.
Okay. I'm not even going to say what Stefan told. We're just going to take last week, and we'll take the last 2 times we've been gashed with the run because it's been similar type results. First thing that you have to do is you have to pull one of your safeties and put them in the box. The second thing that you have to do is if they're going to go with a single wide receiver, you play that receiver about 5 yards off the line of scrimmage. So you're playing them in trail technique, and you put 9 and 10 men in the box. And when that offensive guard comes off clean and picks off Bush or picks off Schober, which you're going to do, and there's nothing that the Steelers can do to stop it, Terrell Edmonds or Micah Fitzpatrick is right there to replace them. So your beautiful run that you thought that you're going to have is now 2nd down and 8. And you force enough 2nd downs and 8s, you basically defend them out of that package. The Steelers can't really go, with the 4 defensive lineman package. They just have the 4 defensive linemen. And I think that it's as simple as playing the corners up and just pressing the box. Do what teams do to us whenever we have the big personnel in. Second thing, anybody that has ever doubted James Harrison going to the Hall of Fame, the Steelers were able to run nickel, and they were able to shut down runs because they had a player by the name of James Harrison that would kick the extra offensive tackle's ass in the run game. And that's why he won defensive MVP, and that's why he's one of the most dominant players to play in the NFL in the last 15 years, and he should be a surefire Hall of Famer, even though I don't like the way he left Pittsburgh. So the Steelers need personnel to perform, but there ain't too much else they can do outside of move the corners up, put the safeties in the box, and play downhill. You cannot have the safeties 12 yards off the ball and having 3-4 personnel against big formations. You're never going to win. It's going to always be 2nd and 5. There is nothing that we could have. LeVon Kirkland and Hardy Nickerson or Chad Brown or James Fair playing inside linebacker, and that wouldn't change. Bigs beat smalls in the run game at the point of attack.
Yeah. I mean, I can't argue with that. Perch, you want to weigh in on this? What how big a problem? Let me ask you this part. How big a problem do you think it is that the Steelers stubbornly try to play their packages and get gashed in the run for 3 quarters? Like, in other words, is that a bigger problem than if they switch to try to stop the run and give up big plays in the passing game?
I mean, the 3 or 4 of us this week here are, not to disparage us, but we're amateur hacks. We're some guys who played some football and enjoy watching it and talk about it on a weekly basis. And we completely diagnosed exactly what the fuck the Steelers needed to do was to shut down the run and pass it to the tight ends and running backs because Detroit had absolutely no talent that can scare you on the outside last week, right? We talked about it at length. Go back and listen to last podcast. We're just average fans, right? For a Pittsburgh Steelers defensive coordinator to get gashed for 230 yards on runs right up the fucking gut over and over and over again because they were too stubborn to adjust to the other team coming out with 6 offensive linemen, 2 tight ends, and handing the ball off and running right up the middle at you. You can blame your guys for not being able to 2-gap. I mean, if you listen to the things that Keith Butler was saying, that he expects his guys to be miracle workers. He expects his 5 techs to take on double team blocks like they're fucking Aaron Smith in his prime, throw people off, have Levon Kirkland behind them, shedding an offensive guard and stuffing a run for no gain. That's just not how the team's built. You can't play your base against, you've got to match. The NFL's a matchup game. It's why the defense is a lot of substitution when the offensive side switches the package. You've got to adjust to it. And the stubbornness, I mean, we've seen it over and over and over again. We've talked about it at length for 2 years, how they get stuck in nickel and teams would recognize it and just play power football and beat them up. I mean, this week it wasn't even that they were a nickel. They just stayed in base and just got bullied by a team who had a big power package, and they couldn't figure out how to. I mean, it's the most basic thing in football to figure out how to stop. Hey, they're big and heavy in power. We've got to match it and shut it down. And it never happened. And for 3 quarters, if you just got them down 14-0 early that game and forced that team to pass block and throw the football, it could have been a laugher. Even with Mason Rudolph, it could have been 28-0. It could have been an absolute blowout in that game.
Look, Goff couldn't throw the ball. I mean, he's hurt. Like it's even especially crazy considering that there was not really a big threat for Goff hanging in there and throwing deep balls or anything. So that part was crazy. Jeremy, speaking of matchups, if you're a team playing the Pittsburgh Steelers, are you more worried? I mean, are you trying to get the Steelers 3rd or 4th defensive, 5th or 6th defensive back on the field, or their 4th or 5th defensive lineman on the field? Because to me, that's easy, right? Their defensive backs are pretty good, even getting into their extra couple of guys. But the defensive line, you're talking about bringing in a guy who is not, that'll be like the weakest link on their offense other than the linebackers. So even if you bring it, as Perch says, you're trying to adjust and you're trying to bring in a bigger package, maybe they just don't have the guys to bring in like that. It just feels like they're so weak at that interior defensive line position.
Well, I mean, we're dealing with injuries there. Stephon Tuitt hasn't played this year. I don't know if he will play this year.
Alu, yeah.
Yeah, Alu's, dealing with the ankle, I think, where he's been out here for over a month. I mean, so we're down to our 4th and 5th and 6th guys. So if we want those guys to stay fresh, I don't know how we play 4 guys at the same time because they're going to get tired. I mean, that's what you have to do, though. It doesn't matter if you get tired. You have to go out there and play football. You're a professional at this stage in your career. You got to go out there and, kick ass from the guy in front of you, whether we've got the depth to do it or not, and then, Henry Mondow, he will make a play here and there, but we've been down Carlos Davis too. So it's like we're almost to our 7th defensive lineman. Isaiah Loudermilk, a guy who I think a lot of people thought was going to kind of take a freshman year to kind of learn behind some of our practice squad guy is playing a ton of football right now. So, I mean, we're relying on a lot of young guys who just, aren't ready to play this type of NFL football yet.
Yeah, I just like
Put
you
one
had
wide
a.
receiver on the against me, I'm putting one corner. And I'll tell you where I'm going to get. I don't care if I got to play a 3-5-3. I don't care if I got to play a 4-4-3. If you put one wide receiver on the field against me, you're seeing one corner and you're seeing a bigger body. And that's how the Steelers. That's how they responded 30 years ago when it was Dick LeBeau and a guy by the name of Don Capers, because teams had attempted to do this to us previously, and you would see the crazy 3-5-3s. Our quarter defense wasn't the classic quarter defense where we were splitting the defensive backs on the field originally. Our quarter defense was Chad Brown coming off the bench. It was this craziness, and that's what the Steelers got to get back to.
I mean, FC.
Not bodies, got to beat them with scheme. Got to beat them with shenanigans.
I mean, FC. I said a month ago, like some bear front might have been the thing for them to do. Like it is kind of what you're talking about. Get up close on them, mug the receivers.
I don't think that we have a linebacker that could really where we can just lock down a tight end or a running back in coverage. I wish we did. I wish that guy was Devin Bush. I wish it was Schobert. I think TJ Watt could, but TJ Watt's the best pass rusher in the NFL off the edge. So you can't really do that with him. So, but yeah, I understand. And I think that what everybody agrees with is some form of change has to happen. You cannot continue on with the same thing.
Yeah, that's probably as good a button as we can put on it. Perch, we're going to attempt to talk a little bit about Steelers and Chargers. I mean, the biggest issue with this game is who's going to play and who isn't going to play. But let me lay out, just because there's too many what ifs. Let me lay out kind of my feel for what I think is going to happen here. I think it'll be a very close call, but I think Ben is going to play in this game. I think TJ Watt is going to practice tomorrow. He's probably going to play. I don't think Minka has a chance to test out in time. I don't think he's going to play. Chase Claypool will practice tomorrow, maybe. So that's the Steelers side. On the other side, I'm pretty sure that Bosa will play, and it looks like Jerry Tillery will not. So if that's the status, Chargers aren't necessarily playing all that well lately, as of course the Steelers aren't either. At least last week they weren't. So how do you see this game shaping up? Like, setting aside the matchup for a second, just like where these two teams are at in the trajectory of the season, how do you see it playing out on Sunday night?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about the Chargers a few weeks back and Justin Herbert and how good he looked, and he was on top of the world. And ever since we jinxed the piss out of him.
Let's talk about him some more, Perch. Yeah.
Yeah. So, he is the greatest quarterback of all time. And no, I mean, he's really regressed and struggled the last, 3 weeks now. He just hasn't looked as good, and they haven't, they started to pull the typical mid to late season Chargers where they melt down and miss the playoffs and that sort of a thing. But I wanted to go back to your point about Ben. He's got to get tested tomorrow. If he's negative, he's got to get tested again Saturday before he can do anything. I would assume that they're flying out sometime Saturday. I don't know if there's a walkthrough or anything. You remember the game a handful of years ago against Cleveland? I think Ben was dinged up and they started Landry Jones, and Landry was just shit in the bed the first quarter, and Ben came in and had like a career day. I kind of got a feeling maybe that's the course of action here, where they're preparing a game plan for Mason Rudolph. He's getting every rep in practice all week. Ben's best case is, hey, he's activated late Saturday. Maybe he goes into this game as a backup, and if Mason's just not getting it done, they try and have Ben come in and save the day going forward. But I can't really even talk about the other side of the ball because the Steelers offense, we don't know what we're going to get there. The Chargers defense, pretty much their whole defensive line's in COVID protocol. We don't know if Bosa's playing. It's, this is going to come down to, much like last week, what happens in the 24th hour, right before the game starts, for who's available and ready to play.
Yeah, I mean, Ben took a COVID test yesterday, started taking them. That doesn't mean that they were positive or negative. We just don't know. He's got to be. Well,
the report I saw said it's going to come down to Saturday. So
yeah, I mean, I figured that was the case anyway. But here's the deal: he had to be 2 days symptom free before he took tests, and he took the test. He started taking the test Wednesday. So all I'm saying is that makes it a little bit more feasible that he would be able to get his 2 tests in time. So even if his test today was negative, like the time frame with how long it usually takes someone who's vaccinated to test negative again, it would seem like a Thursday and Friday would be a real possibility for him. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed on that one. And that leaves one more day really to test. So, I feel like you got an extra day with Ben. Fingers crossed it's probably going to work out. But I mean, yes, of course, we have no idea who's really going to play and who isn't. When you add to that, especially the injury guys. But, I said Watt would play based on the fact of seeing him work out without practicing. But, it was like, yeah, he wasn't pushing it very hard, but he also didn't appear to be in pain, like he wasn't gingerly moving through the drill. He was just taking it easy. So the prognosis that I heard from medical people was that probably it was a bit of a scare, but that he's going to play. But, who knows? I mean, here's the thing, Jeremy, I can't shut people down because it's one of the more winnable games left on the Steelers schedule. And they need to find 3 or 4 wins somehow.
Yeah, I agree. This is the stretch where it looks brutal for the Steelers going forward. We get the Bengals here, we get the Ravens again, we get the Browns again to close out the year. So we still got 3 division games. It's a tough stretch here. Chargers look like a team we can beat, because they've struggled stopping the run. Their defense has given up some points or whatever. So I feel like if the Pittsburgh can run the ball with Harris, like we should have against the Lions, I feel like we've got a puncher's chance, but I feel like we need Big Ben to do that. I just don't feel like we can win with Mason Rudolph. I mean, just after it'll be nice that he gets the full week of prep. Last year against the Browns, he had a full week of prep. He looked a lot better. So maybe with a full week of prep, the fingers crossed, but I'm still hoping for, kind of like what Perch said, Big Ben coming in at the 24th hour and having one of his better career games. So
I don't know, like it's like Landry Jones, same deal. Like you can polish them all you want. You can't polish a turd, man. You're not going to make Mason Rudolph into an NFL quarterback just because you prepped him. It's like, yes, right. He can go out there and not be 100% embarrassing, but yeah, he's not an NFL player at that position.
Real quick, to Jeremy's point about running the ball more, I think the major issue is we threw the ball 50 times. We ran to 31. When you got 81 plays and 16 points, that's a problem. I mean, you really can't rely on running Najee more than what they are. Larry Johnson has the most carries in a season in NFL history, 416, averages out to about 26 a game. Harris had 26 carries. You really can't realistically expect any back the last, 30 carries a game, especially now that there's 17-game seasons. You got to kind of start pushing that down and keeping your guy, 20 or less, and that's why they've got to develop or most likely draft or sign a free agent that's a quality number 2. But that's the major issue is when you're running Benny Snell for 1 or 2 carries a game and Balaj for 1 or 2 carries a game, and your backups average 4 carries for 1 yard. I mean, that's not going to cut it.
Nope.
You hope that Harris never gets hurt, but the offense has really got absolutely nothing left.
No, it's what's the word I'm looking for? It is reprehensible that they have not done something to find a backup running back. There's so many running backs available in the world. There's guys on the street. There's guys on practice squads who can come in in relief, especially if your number one guy has worn them down a little bit and you bring a guy fresh off the bench who's got excitement and a little juice and like can run 4 or 5 times in a game and give you some yards. Like there's guys like that everywhere. There's guys in Canada, there were guys in the AAF and XFL who can do that. So it's just disturbing that they're still trotting Benny Snell out there, Benny Snell football. And, Balaj is like not really, going to give you a lot of excitement on 2 or 3 handoffs. Maybe he's a guy more like if you lost your starter and he had to start for you, maybe he could have a reasonable game if you give him enough carries to get going. But FC, I was going to ask you a different question, but let me ask you this one. Of those 50 passes that Mason Rudolph threw, how many did you hold your breath wondering if it was going to be picked before it landed?
Not as many as you would think.
The ones to the side, everything to the sideline or beyond 10 yards, I did. I can tell you that.
You can't pick off a bounce pass.
Yeah, that was. How about that? That was probably, I'd say, Mason Rudolph's worst throw other than the interception was in that touchdown. You had a drenched ball. I'm not going to make excuses. I'm going to take basically the original question that you asked, and I'm going to figure, I hope Ben starts. If he doesn't, I tell Mason Rudolph two things. What you see, fire the ball to. He was aiming the ball a little bit. I didn't like that.
Mm-hmm.
Just deliver, and don't be afraid to be great. I mean, if he's starting and Ben's on the bench, then and we yank him, that's fine. And Ben leads us to a victory, great, win the game. But if Ben's out, we're going to have to depend on him. Hopefully, we'll have Claypool back, and he just has to deliver the ball. He is not horrid. He's not very good. I think that he is a bottom tier backup quarterback in the NFL. I agree with that. The big thing is if TJ Watt doesn't play, Keith Butler, raw it up like it's 1995, and I'm fucking blitzing everybody. Go out on your shield. I would rather lose 48-0, blitzing fucking this batshit crazy defensive football than to get bled dry in a 24-3 game where it's just stupidity. So,
yeah, but have you met this head coach, dude? Because if everybody's out, he's going to be looking to shorten the game, keep it close, try to win it at the end. It's like that's the
only chance you're going to have of winning is you're going to have to keep the Chargers from scoring points, and the only way you're going to be able to do that without T.J. Watt is a creative blitz package. Because if you rattle Herbert early, Herbert stays rattled all game, and Mike Williams is got the yips. Couldn't catch the cold from a 250 horror. Keenan Allen is barely able to run with a lower body injury. Guyton, their third wide receiver, he also has the yips. I believe Jared Cook graduated right between me and you in high school, Will. So I think he was like class of like 85. I don't know what he does with his walker. I like Aaron Eckler. I mean, everyone talks about how tough Aaron Eckler is. Aaron Eckler takes a big-time shot. Eckler's looking to find a place to dive. He all of a sudden turns into a combination of Tim Worley, Franco Harris, and Walter Abercrombie, where he can't get to the sideline or down fast enough.
There's a lot to unpack there, FC. But first, can you find a 250 horror anymore? Because I think with inflation, they're closer to $25.
I see Biden, the cost of prostitution is even up.
It really is. Yeah, definitely. Jeremy, no excuses for Mason Rudolph this week. If he plays drive, it's in a dome or sort of a dome, I guess. And
it's basically indoors.
I'm just saying it's wet. It's not wet. It's indoors, and he's had a whole week of prep. He might even get Chase Claypool back. But here's my prediction. See what you think. It's going to look about the same because this is what Mason Rudolph looks like. It doesn't matter if the weather's bad or not. He has players or not. It doesn't matter. That's what he looks like. Is it not going to be what he looks like on Sunday?
Yeah, I mean, if the Steelers haven't seen enough of Mason Rudolph yet, I mean, I don't know how much more they need to see to know that this guy – he does not deserve a shot at, running this franchise next year. Like that concept is laughable at this point if they think he might be the guy for next year. But at this point, I'd rather try Dwayne Haskins out there and see if he has something at this point. If Big Ben's not going to go, I'd at least give a young guy who might still be able to do something in this league. Landry's destined to be a clipboarder for his entire career. I mean,
well, you called him Landry, which is fairly appropriate. Yeah.
Oops. Yeah, that's my bad. Oops. Yeah. But I mean, that's how forgettable he is.
What's that, FC?
Okay. I think Johnny Manziel, quarterbacks are the Browns. I call Baker Mayfield Johnny Manziel unintentionally.
Oh yeah, there you go. Same difference. Yeah.
Let me weigh in on that real quick. I really, really, really hope the quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers next year is Mason Rudolph, and let me tell you why. If you put a rookie quarterback on this team with this offensive coordinator and this line, And these skill position guys, he's going to be ruined. He's going to be Derek Carr, right? Or David Carr. Who was the one that was for Houston? David Carr.
Yeah.
Just shell-shocked in his first year and done. So, to me, they've got so many holes and things they've got to patch and figure out on that offensive side of the ball where if they no longer have a QB1 salary weighing them down, then they've got some money to go out in free agency, and they've got all these draft picks, and they can go out and build the roster out and then wait a year and then get the QB. To me, that's perfect. Or, there's talk about Russell Wilson being available. There's talk about Aaron Rodgers and whoever else that could possibly be shaken loose and on the market. And God forbid I almost puked, but I heard Matt Ryan's name thrown out today. I hope that wouldn't be it. I couldn't stand watching him either. But, it's possible that Tomlin says, hey, in the back of his head, he maybe have a number. I've got 4 years left. I've got 5 years left, and I don't want to have to rebuild with a young guy. So to me, you've got to build out that roster before you go get the quarterback. Like when Ben came in, they had the one down year. They were lucky to get him. They had a lot of talent on defense and a really strong offensive line, and everything worked out. So just my opinion on that whole process.
I don't know. I mean, I'll take what Perch said and throw it to FC. I just don't. I'm not even sure they have a path to building out their roster in time for the key pieces that they have that are really good to still be viable. Like, how long is Cam Hayward going to play at a peak level? They have Najee Harris. What's he got? 4 more years that you can count on. You're going to get like top level performance from him. He might take that long to get the offensive line sorted out. The wide receiver.
I really do. What the Steelers would be best for the Steelers is they're going to need another draft like this one. And, you can't take it away from Colbert this year. He's done a good job. And, just look at all the rookies that are contributing.
Yeah.
They're going to have to find a left tackle. I believe that. I believe then you could slide, more with a right tackle where he'll be fine, more natural position. I think you need to find a center where you can fire Kedrick Green into left guard, move Dotson over to right guard. Into his more natural position. They're going to definitely have to find at least one safety. What are you going to do with Minka? I know you're going to pick up the option, but you would probably maybe like to get something done with him long term. The cap's going up. I understand both sides of the argument. If you can get a Russell Wilson in here, if you can get an Aaron Rodgers in here, I'm all for it. I'm Matt Ryan. I'm not. Kirk Cousins. I'm not. I don't think those guys are good enough to get you over the hump, despite, Matt Ryan probably should have a Super Bowl.
Dom, are those quarterbacks good enough to overcome the way the Steelers want to play football? Like, if they don't come accompanied by a different coach and a different offensive coordinator, I'm not sure either one of those guys, Russell Wilson or
notice how much motion, how many blowouts, how much ball work that they, before the field got to be an albatross, and probably, let's say, our first 3 or 4 possessions, the Steelers want to do a lot more with their offense than they're capable of doing with Ben Roethlisberger because of his limited mobility. It's a fact. I love Ben, but he limits some of the things that you can do with your passing game and with your run game because his lack of mobility.
Let me ask you guys this question. If you could magically place any quarterback in the NFL into this current Steelers offense, who the hell would it be? Because I just don't see how it's designed for anybody to be successful. I don't think Tom Brady can come in here with this offense the way that it's constructed and it scored 25 a game. It's still not going to be any damn good. Maybe it was Lamar Jackson if you had somebody that was that super freaky athletic that can just create on his own. But who is this offense created for? Because people were saying, well, it's just Ben's mobility. Well, Mason was perfectly mobile, and he looked like ass too. Who is this offense? Which quarterback in the history of football would look good in this offense?
Oh, John Elway, Steve Young, because of the movement.
I was going to say Josh Allen maybe would be the one guy I can think of in the league who would be.
Those guys chuck it down. Those guys consistently, there's plays called for them to throw it downfield. This offense is nothing but short at the line. The occasional, you get a one-on-one down the sideline with the guy who's covered, but there is no intermediate passing game. There is no thoughtful, deep passing game in the offense at all. And when you cram everything to the line, it's never going to succeed.
But where's the speed, Jeremy? If your receivers that you're running out as the Pittsburgh Steelers are Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool, or even last week, James Washington, Ray McLeod, and Pat Freiermuth. Like if Claypool's out of the game like he was last week, who are you scared of? I mean, Deontay Johnson, yes, very good receiver, but he can't do it all. He can't be your deep threat and your intermediate guy and your third down reception guy and blah blah blah. Like. What is the problem that they don't really have enough diversity or enough speed to really scare anybody?
Well, yeah, they don't have any true vertical threat. I mean, Claypool's the one guy who you can say to run deep and, where he can win a 50-50 ball, but he's not separating, like something like other guys do in the NFL. It's not like, the Rams that have Van Jefferson. It's like that guy loves going deep. They love to get vertical to him. Steelers don't have any guys that can really do that on a consistent basis. We need another vertical threat with speed. He doesn't even have to be like, a 4-3 guy, but he has to be quick off the line and fast enough to get down the field and beat a defensive back. We just don't have that if his name's not Deontay Johnson.
Yeah, and we also especially if you're not playing Ebron, who you're not sure if he's going to catch the ball. Of course, that's why and he can't block it. Hey, by the way, Eric Ebron threw an excellent block on one play last week. I noticed
one play, awesome.
Yeah, but it was like, hey, it might be the first time I've ever seen him in a game with the Steelers throw a good block. I just wanted to point it out. But without Ebron playing on the field, I love what Pat Freiermuth is bringing so far as a rookie. He's been done a lot of the things that I thought he would do well, even better than I thought he could do them. And some of the things that I thought he wasn't the greatest at, he's been okay at. But his strength is not scaring somebody off the line, up the seam. And so right now it's like they have nobody in the interior. You want to understand why they're only throwing 50-50 balls on the outside. They don't have anybody to really do other stuff. I mean, it's so frustrating to watch it because they just go with the same guys over and over again. They love their guys. They run the same, running backs, the same tight ends, distribution of plays, the same distribution of plays with wide receivers. And it's like they just don't threaten anybody with that. Or with that.
I'm sending you something right now. Will, it's from one of your favorite things. It's advanced NFL stats. It's yards of separation per target in the NFL. And I think you're going to be a little bit surprised. Who's second in the NFL?
Second in the NFL?
It's a guy by the name of Chase Claypool.
Yeah.
I mean, he gets interfered with, and they don't call the penalties. He's so damn big, they expect him to be able to make plays, I guess, where he's having an arm held down. I mean, what I'm saying... And also, no juju really also hurts.
I think that hurts a lot. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Because Deontay Johnson is a vertical receiver. I mean, he can make vertical plays. He can make plays in the passing game. He's a very poor man's Antonio Brown. Very poor man. I'm not trying to make him out to be something great. He's not Hines Ward. He's more Andre Hastings, maybe. But that's a guy that can make plays. And I love Juju. I really do. I love the kid in him. I love that he shows up for every practice in uniform, in the sling. I love that he's around the team, but the Ray McLeod, man.
Don't get it.
James Washington has been a major disappointment, and they never caught bait. I have more of a problem with what they've done with the wide receiver position, with Juju being down, than what they have done with the running back position. Yikes. I don't like Balazs very much. I don't like Benny Snell. But, man, I mean, Cody White and, how bad is Anthony Miller got to be to not even get it? Really?
And Steven Sims. Steven Sims, pretty good player. Like, what are those two guys doing, completely with their thumb up their butts instead of in the game and playing? Like, it just, other than loyalty and, this guy's been around, he knows the offense. I mean, other than that kind of BS, I just can't conceive of, anybody who had some urgency to how they viewed the team and the season and what was going on would do something else. But their urgency is the last thing that the Steelers feel like they they don't feel urgency until like the house is already on fire and falling down, as opposed to like, I smell smoke. You know, I apologize, guys. Like I'm just pissed off this week, and I'm not doing a very good job of like keeping it moving around. So please, don't feel left out if I haven't gone to you enough. Perch, save me from this. I mean, we're gonna move on to our next segment, but give me the last word on this matchup and what, you know, something to look out for.
Look out for our wonderful center snapping the ball over the quarterback's head. We never really done that. So
look out below.
maybe that's a topic.
Yeah, okay.
Maybe that's a topic for the next week. But all right, halfway through our rookie season here, as good as Pat Freiermuth has been, did we blow it not taking Creed Humphrey? Because he's been outstanding, and the areas that he's strong, which is being a strong anchor up the middle, boy, that's something we really need. And the same thing FC mentioned about, you know, sliding him to left guard next year and throwing Dotson to right guard, and maybe go acquire in free agency a good, sturdy, solid veteran center. That might make a world of difference on the line, and maybe spend a first or second round pick on either a left or right tackle. Lord knows, you know, I think left tackle might be the bigger need at this point. But yeah, I mean,
but here's what doesn't make it Perch. Here's what makes no sense. Here's what makes no sense. Creed Humphrey, if he was here, they'd be having him run sweeps, because like the strength of Kendrick Green's game is on the move. So you get him on the move. Yeah. You get the stretch plays and the sweeps. He's terrific at that on the move. But we're not having to do that at all. We're trying to get him to be an anchor in the middle of the field. If Creed Humphrey was here, they'd have him do the opposite thing. It's like it doesn't fit the style of the player that they drafted, and then we're judging the player and basically tampering his development by not letting him do what he's good at so he can build some confidence. On top of that, to make matters even worse, what Kendrick Green does well doesn't suit Najee Harris's game. You know, it's like Najee Harris is not a guy you're going to run outside and on a bunch of sweeps and an outside zone. It's like, that's not his game. So why draft a center that doesn't really fit that guy's game? And if you're going to draft a guy at that same point in the draft, by the time you got there, who you wanted to have more of an anchor and play in the middle, then draft Robert Hainsey. He had same amount of center experience as Kendrick Green, and way better anchor, and way more tape of anchor. So anyway, that's all I want to say about it. I'll give it back to you, Perch, since I interrupted you.
No, I mean, that was about it. I mean, we could talk about, you know, we didn't spend a whole lot of time on the Chargers matchup, but we could talk about what this team needs to fix and what they can do in the offseason for about 6 more hours and not even touch half of it. So but I mean, I'll let you move to the next segment. We're going to be here.
It's true. I mean, just last word. I feel like, you know, I'm just angry because it doesn't matter about the matchup for the Steelers. Like, it doesn't matter who plays or who doesn't play. I think they have the ability to line up and beat that team, a fully stocked Chargers team playing well. They could go to Los Angeles with fucking chicken shit, you know, like the worst case scenario, who they're going to take out there, and they could win this game. I mean, they could also take their full team and lose this game. Like, it's we've been doing this for long enough now that I am convinced that it barely matters. You know, that's where I'm at this week. On that note, let's move on to our illustrious pick segment quickly. Brought to us by
Washington PhD Senator Mike Perry, covering up for the NFL like no others. Jeremy's show, The Point After, on
KLA Radio, 8:30 a.m. Catch it 10:30 Eastern or 7:30 Pacific on Sunday morning.
And by our favorite new daily fantasy sports stock app, presented to you by Perch.
Prediction Strike. Download on the App Store.
And also brought to us by, which is worse, the college targeting rule or the NFL players? I don't know. The list this week, roughing the passer. Like, what on earth? Some of the stuff they've been calling is like, what are you kidding me? Anyways, like, a guy was like trying to tie the quarterback's shoes. It didn't even touch him, really. They called him for a low hit last weekend. All right. Anyway, just quickly, college. I don't know. To start with Virginia, Pittsburgh. I'd say this because, you know, the quarterback starter for Virginia is low key. You know, some people are starting to get interested in him for the NFL draft as a possible NFL prospect. And Pittsburgh's quarterback, of course, is the talk of the town in Pittsburgh. So first of all, Jeremy, I'll start with you. Tell me which of these two quarterbacks will be a better value where they go and where they end up going in the draft, and who will win this game. Virginia at Pittsburgh. Pitt's at 11-point favorite.
Well, I think Armstrong will present a better value because I think someone's going to pick it too high. I mean, when you're 25 years old, you should be pretty damn good at college football by that age. So I will go with Pittsburgh. I feel like they're a better team overall.
How about you, Perch? Who do you like? The Auburn of Pennsylvania?
Kenny Pickett. Hey, listen. Just because Kenny Pickett has played college football under 3 different presidential administrations doesn't mean that he's old. Okay. Yeah, I completely agree with what Jeremy said. I mean, yeah, you should be pretty good by 25 years old, and somebody will probably overdraft him. I see him going in the first round somewhere, and I just hope it isn't staying in the same stadium that he's at now. Although he's had a great season. It's been fun to watch him. But, yeah, Pitt's a better team. Pitt should win and cover. Well, I don't know if they'll cover. What's it, a 14.5 point spread? I'd say Pitt wins by, give me Pitt by 10. Pitt will go 35-25 Pitt.
All right. How about UFC?
I like Pitt to win the game. I like Virginia to cover the spread. I think that both Brennan Armstrong and Kenny Pickett will both Boston the NFL. I think Armstrong will be drafted later, so I'll say Armstrong will be a better value.
Oh, you stole my thunder, FC. That's what I was going to say. I will take Pitt in this game, however. But, yeah, I don't think either guy is a real contender to do much in the NFL. I would say Pickett's peak is, I guess he might make it to a Kirk Cousins level of career, but I think that would be only if he goes kind of exactly the right spot and stays healthy, which I don't
I bet he's a Super Bowl winning coach or a college national champion in 25 years.
Yeah, that's more reasonable to believe, for sure. Let's talk about one more, and that's the UCLA at Southern Cal. We don't talk much about the West Coast teams, but I don't know. I feel like it's a good matchup this year. It's always a good rivalry game. What do you make of this, FC?
I'll take the best player in the game, and that's Mike London. So I'll take SC, and I believe it'll be a slight upset. So I will take the men of Troy over UCLA.
Oh, interesting. I will take UCLA. I like their. I don't know if it's an NFL prospect, but what is it? DTR, right? So it's Dorian Thompson Robinson. Thompson Robinson, yeah. I think he's a pretty good player. UCLA, I think, is a team that underachieved a little almost this year. Like, I think they have something, but they just couldn't quite get it all together. How about you, Jeremy?
Yeah, I'm a fan of what Chip Kelly's building at UCLA. Like you said, I think they've underachieved. When I watched him week 1 and really beat up on, I think it might have been LSU. I'm not sure off the top of my head. But, I was impressed with them early. They have, they've been inconsistent, but I like UCLA as the better team here. USC is still playing this rotation game between Keaton Slovis and Jackson Dart. I just think UCLA is a little bit better of an overall team at this point.
How about you, Perch? Wrap it up.
UCLA is a basketball school. At least they were 50 years ago. USC isn't good at anything. Pac-12 football sucks. That's why we don't talk about it. UCLA wins and covers.
Hey, Power 5. They're a Power 5 team, Perch. Don't you know?
The whole conference has been Oregon and occasionally Stanford for the last dozen years. It sucks.
100% agree. If you took the best teams in, let's say the AAC, right? Isn't that maybe the next, the not quite Power 5 conference? If you took the best teams in there and you put them against the Pac-12, I guess it is, who do you think wins that tournament?
Cincinnati by 10.
Yeah, it just feels like that the strength of the difference in strength, especially this year with the super seniors and so on and so forth. I feel like the difference in strength between the lesser Power 5 conferences and the better group of 5 conferences are pretty close. Let's move on and talk about the NFL a little bit. I don't know if there's anything in particular that we need to hit. How about here's an interesting one. The Bengals at the Raiders. I kind of feel like whichever team wins this game is going to have a pretty good chance to make the playoffs, even if they limp in. The loser of this game, I think, is going to be in trouble. I'll start with you, Jeremy. Who do you see here?
I think the Bengals win this. They're coming out of a bye after 2, pretty disappointing losses. One to the freaking Mike White-led Jets, and then, Cleveland embarrassed them, before their bye. I think they're going to come out well rested. They're going to come out sharp, ready to pounce. I think they're going to win the game probably by 10. I think the Raiders are still kind of just reeling from everything that's going on this year with them, losing Gruden, losing Henry Ruggs. It's just one thing after another, and I just don't think they can keep up the act any longer.
Nice. Perch, how about you?
Yeah, I think this is pretty much going to be a wild card elimination game. You look at the schedule coming up in the next 5 or 6 weeks. I mean, this 17-game season, as much as I hate that extra game, there's so many divisional games and so many wild card type teams that are right, within a game of 500 going to be playing each other. Every single week there's a couple of these games. I'm going to go the other way. I think that the Raiders have been a little bit better. I know that they've been in a little bit of a slide here with all the crap that's been going on. I like them to bounce back in that game, come back and win. I think Cincinnati's like maybe a 1-point favorite in that. I'm going to take the Raiders to win by a field goal in that game. Say 30-27 Raiders.
How about you, FC?
I actually agree with Perch. I think that the Raiders, the players that are there, I think they're going to get it straightened out. And I think that they're going to try to really play for Mayock in a way, because there's really loud chance for him to be fired. I mean, the last 2 first-round picks are no longer on your roster, and Cleveland Farrell looks like a bust. I'm going to take the Raiders also by a field goal, 30-27.
Let me put it to you this way, guys. Think about the most recent game for all 4 teams in the AFC North. The Ravens lost to Miami. The Steelers tied Detroit. Cleveland was blown out in New England, and Cincinnati was blown out by Cleveland. That's the last 4 games for the people in this division. It's not been a good couple of weeks for those teams. I think the Bengals are slightly below the radar, collapsing. Their offensive line has really gone to absolute doo-doo.
Yep.
The last few weeks, and I think it may not be a long run for the Vegas Raiders. I'm not sure how long they can sustain this energy, but yeah, I agree that this is a week where they have a chance to rally and keep themselves in it another week. And keep yourself in it another week is a fairly good mantra for NFL teams this year, because I mean, it's just one of those years. It's so close in the AFC that if you just keep going and you try not to lose games that you can win, you're going to lose some, but maybe it works out in the end. One more game quickly. Dallas Cowboys and Kansas City Chiefs. Dallas has a couple of tough games here to prove that they are deserving of the NFL's second best record or third best record, whatever it is they have right now. I'll start with this one. The Chiefs have done nothing to impress me whatsoever, but Dallas really scared me the last game they played against Denver. They just looked absolutely listless. So I'm going to say this is a very close game, closer than you might think. Because 3 weeks ago, I would have said Dallas was going to blow out Kansas City because Kansas City's defense couldn't stop them. But I think Kansas City has righted the ship enough to win a close game against Dallas, and they're favored by 2.5. But I guess a field goal game for Kansas City. How about you, Dom?
I'm actually going to take them Cowboys. The reason being is I don't think that the Chiefs defense can stop the Cowboys offense enough. And Travis Kelce is not right, and they don't have anything else outside of Cheetah, Tyreek Hill. So I'm going to take the Cowboys.
By the way, I meant to say Mel Gordon, being added to that defense really helped because Chris Jones in the middle is really good. It was hurting them to have him on the edge. Go ahead, Perch.
Going the opposite way. I think the Chiefs win by 2 scores. I'm going to go Chiefs, say 30-21. The law averages. The team is too good. Yeah, I know they've got some injuries. The defense looked like ass. Like they couldn't stop anybody for, 5-6 weeks. But they looked pretty good the last game, and I think that they are kind of getting the pieces together. You know, a lot of these teams that we know are very talented will struggle sometimes early in the season. Then they kind of start putting it together and gaining some steam. And Dallas is Dallas. I mean, they've looked good before, and they start tripping over themselves. I just think the law averages kind of comes back, and the Chiefs end up going on a run here, and Dallas kind of comes back down where they typically end up.
Yep, gotcha. Well, that does it for our illustrious pick segments for all except for our. Oh, Jeremy, I'm sorry, dude. Sorry, Dark. I did it again. I should do that because I think it's been a good luck charm. When I forget to give you the last pick, hit me, buddy.
I kind of agree with Perch. I think the NFL is all about momentum. The Chiefs have been building momentum here. I think they win a very close game, though. I think it's going to be a big-time shootout. I think both offenses are going to have a big day. Both defenses aren't going to do a whole lot. You know, for all the Trevon Diggs talk of, him having a ton of interceptions, he also leads the NFL in, yards given up to receivers. So he's a feast or famine guy there. I think the Chiefs just find a way to win a very close game at this point. I think it'll be by a field goal or a touchdown. Whoever has the ball last type of deal, they'll drive down. They'll get their winning score.
Yeah, I gotcha. Well, all right. Sorry, it's terrible. We're moving on to discuss our 5-star matchup. Last week, not really a 5-star matchup, just letting you in on the secret. This week's a little better. Sounded pretty good on paper about a month ago with the Steelers and Chargers. I'll start with you, FC. What's your prediction for what will happen in this Steelers-Chargers matchup on Sunday Night Football?
I'm going to take a pessimist view where T.J. Watt doesn't play. Mason Rudolph's a starter. Ben isn't active. I think the Chargers are going to win the game 17-6. But I won't be surprised if the Steelers might dial up some of that old-school Steelers defense and maybe win an ugly one with defense and special teams. But I'll stick with the 17-6 Chargers.
How about you, Perch?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of had this game circled here for a few weeks where this was kind of a game where our defense could go out there and wreak some havoc and, go on the road and pull an upset. But that was when everybody was healthy. With not knowing if TJ Watt's playing or not, and being without Minkah Fitzpatrick, and either Ben's not going to play or he is going to play. And I don't know if you saw it, what Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers looked like coming back from a week of being injured or sick. It wasn't pretty. That game was awful to watch, and they both looked awful. So there's just too much going against the Steelers in this game. I'm going to go 23-16 in favor of the Chargers, just because I think that the Chargers offense will be the best unit on the field because it's probably the healthiest.
How about you, Jeremy?
I'm going to be the optimist here this week. I'm going to say I'm going to say that Big Ben does end up playing. I think he ends up starting, has a nice day. I think TJ Watt will play. I think he's a guy that's going to, play even if he probably shouldn't at this point. I think we're going to be healthy enough to win the ball game. It's going to be ugly as hell, though. I mean, I'm talking like 20-17. I'm
going to cop out totally and give you a split score. I think it makes that much of a difference in the game. I think if whether or not TJ Watt plays, let's assume the defense is still going to be without Minkah. That to me is a huge deal. And it requires a change in, you could cover it if you changed what you were doing on defense and try to be a bit more aggressive or something, but I'm not sure they're going to just do what they do and just plug Norwood back there, or Carl Joseph or whatever it is they're going to do. I'm not sure that that's a real solution. I will say this. I think I kind of with FC, if Mason Rudolph starts this game, best case scenario, it's a close game throughout, but the Chargers pull away towards the end and win something like, call it 17-10 or 17-6 or something. And if Ben plays, I think it could be a bigger scoring game. I think they might push each other to a 24-21 kind of a game. It wouldn't surprise me at all if the Steelers win this game. They have gone out the 2 previous times to San Diego, or to play the Chargers, I should say, and had their backup quarterback playing, in one case their third string quarterback playing, and still managed to win games ugly. We'll take it. We'll take an ugly win for sure. And one thing that nobody has mentioned, it's going to be a home game for the Steelers, especially, I think, if you see Ben again, you see Ben back into the lineup. Steeler fans who may never get a chance to see him again out there in Southern California, that crowd's going to be 75% Steelers fans. So I expect that to be a factor in this game, maybe a little bit anyway. Last word, I'll start with you, Jeremy.
Ben's got to make a plane at 3 p.m. on Saturday. If he doesn't get on the plane, we're not winning the ball game.
Yeah, I hear you. Perch.
Last word. Warren Sapp, you pathetic piece of shit human being. I don't know if anybody saw, outside of all of Warren Sapp's many run-ins with the law throughout his career, but he took a shot at Cam Hayward when they tweeted out the little picture of the Sunday Night Football matchup with the Chargers quarterback and a picture of Hayward, and Warren Sapp says, "Who's 97?" Just what a small human being that guy is. I can't stand him. Trying to keep this clean, but screw Warren Sapp.
Yeah. Dom?
I second what the fine man from Suburban Zone 22 says. Fuck him. And I will add Thanksgiving next Thursday. Just remember, relatives will be gone. You sneak away, watch football. They will leave. It'll be all right. In case they're not, booze, pills, pot, they help.
Well, first of all, I hope that we're doing our show Wednesday next week so that we can get it done before the holiday. If you guys are in, I'm in. But secondly, my advice is for Thanksgiving, bring up politics, because it'll save you money for Christmas presents, which is and on that note, gentlemen, God, let's try to win a game, not tie it or lose it, so we can have something fun to talk about next week. We'll talk about how great they are and the prospects for the future and how they solved all their problems. Wouldn't that be wonderful? Thanks to SteelPerch, to Dom, aka FC, to Jeremy Kohlman, host of The Extra Point on 8:30 a.m., 9:30 or 10:30 in the morning on game days on Sunday. You can find him on the internet with the Extra Point. And also thank you to everybody at SteelerFury.com, where we hold court on a regular basis as if we're a bunch of drunks talking in a bar, but it's fun. And to those of you who know me as Accidental Zen and or Bradshaw to Ben, I'm Wil Masisak, host of this joint, this circus, saying, let's talk next week after a big Steelers victory. Go get them, Steelers.
Steelers.